Hello everyone and welcome. In this video we're going to do a deep dive into the Barbarian class. We're going to talk about hints and tips, we're going to talk about all the subclasses. It's going to be lovely. So let's jump straight into the game, shall we? So what do they get? They get Strength saving throw proficiency, Constitution saving throw proficiency, Light armor proficiency, Medium armor proficiency, Shield proficiency, Simple weapons, martial weapons which is the most important thing here. And then they get the rage ability. So basically, while raging, you deal 2 extra damage with melee and improvised weapons, and when throwing objects. You also have resistance to physical damage and advantage on strength checks and saving throws. If you don't attack or don't take damage during a turn, then your rage ends early. It's really important to also consider the fact that if you're a barbarian and you, for whatever reason, decided to use a spell that requires concentration, let's say you're multi-classing, for instance, into a spellcaster class, which doesn't make much sense, but anyway, let's assume you did. You would immediately lose all concentration of that spell as soon as you rage, which is why it's not very good synergy to actually multi-class a spellcaster with a barbarian. So rage is a bonus action and it costs 1 rage charge, and if I'm not mistaken you start at level 1 with 2 rage charges, so you can basically rage twice and then you'd need to, I think, the recharge at a long rest, so you'd need to do a long rest and then get the rage charges back. And rage lasts for 10 turns, assuming you get hit or do an attack for 10 turns in a row. And last but not least, let's not forget the fact that a level 1 barbarian can get unarmored defense. Your body is as resilient as any armor. While not wearing armor, you add your constitution modifier to your armor class. Wearing heavy armor impedes your rage, so obviously barbarians don't want to wear heavy armor. Up to now, the ideal armor, I think, at least within the early access, is wearing a Githyanki half-blade, which is medium armor. We might, who knows, if we get some insane items once the game is fully released, which would potentially enable you to not wear any armor and make use of an armor defense. I guess we would have to wait and see. Considering attributes and stat allocations, obviously we can see the asterisk next to the strength. Strength is really important for any barbarian. It basically is your damage, let's put it that way. Your secondary stat should be focused in constitution, because obviously the more constitution you have, the more tanky you are. That synergizes directly with rage. Basically rage halves the damage you take, so every 1 hit point you gain, it's like gaining 2 hit points if you're a barbarian. You can kind of think of it that way. And then normally, if you're looking to be a powerhouse and looking to maximize your damage and also maximize your survivability, you're looking first at strength, then constitution, and then dexterity. Okay, so we are now level 2, and level 2 barbarians gain access to reckless attack. Basically, reckless attack gives you advantage on attack rolls against enemies for 1 turn, and also gives enemies advantage on attack rolls against you. So it's as simple as that. You have a higher chance to hit because you've got advantage on attack rolls, but they also have a higher chance to hit you, which isn't so much of an issue because obviously rage gives you all the resistances and everything else, so it's kind of synergistic in that way. So that's what reckless attack does. It's a really powerful mechanic of the barbarian. Okay, we've gone and killed a few things, right? So we're now level 3. So at level 3 barbarians get to choose one of their 3 subclasses. Obviously I'm playing early access, so we've only got the Berserker and the Wild Heart subclass, but they will be adding another subclass called the Wild Magic Barbarian. So what does the Berserker get access to? So the Berserker gets access to an improved rage ability called Frenzy, which sends you in an unquenchable bloodlust, and then when you're in a frenzy, you can use Frenzied Strike, which basically allows you to perform an extra melee attack as a bonus action, or you can use Enraged Throw, which again, using a bonus action, allows you to throw something or someone, whether it's barrels, goblins, etc., depending on your strength. It's a really fun ability. The throw does bludgeoning damage and knocks a creature prone for 1 turn. It says that your strength affects how much weight you can throw, which is what I said earlier. Heavier items deal more damage, so the more strength you have, the heavier items you can throw and the more damage you do. The damage of thrown weapons is the same as the weapon's melee damage, so that wouldn't change. So that's it for the Berserker Barb. The Wild Heart Barb is kind of like a force of nature, is what I'd describe it. The Wild Heart Barbarian, a bit like druids, they're more attuned to nature, but they have this primal rage within them. So what do they get? They get by default Speak with Animals that they can cast, which is in the game is really helpful. And I would imagine that once we get the full game, it's going to be even more helpful. So this is a really cool ability to have. And then they get all of these hearts, let's call them. So they get the bear heart, eagle heart, elk heart, tiger, wolf heart. We definitely know that we're getting at least 5 or 6 more. Maybe I'm overestimating that. At least 3 or 4 more anyway. Into the final game. I don't think we know exactly what they're going to be, but I guess we're going to find out. So let's kind of go through what we have now. So what does the bear heart do? Obviously the bear heart, I guess, attunes you with the spirit of a bear. So your rage ability gives you resistance to all damage except psychic damage. So obviously a bear, being more bulky, etc., is more tanky, so that kind of is imprinted on you because you're attuned to the bear. So that makes sense, lore-wise at least. And then you also get access to Unrelenting Ferocity, which is basically a heal spell, which is it makes for a more tanky barbarian, so you take less damage because you're raging, and then you can also heal back a bit of the damage you took, so it's overall a tankier option than the Berserker Barb, for instance, or all the other hearts you can choose from. The Eagle Heart is, in my opinion, one of the most interesting ones out of the bunch, at least the ones we get now. So enemies have disadvantage on opportunity attacks against you, so that means you can almost freely move around whilst provoking opportunity attacks, and they have less of a chance to hit you. And you can also use dash as a bonus action, so rogues at the moment can use dash as a bonus action, so you're a very mobile fighter basically if you spec into Eagle Heart. And then what's the coolest ability of all, I think, which has the most potential in terms of skill cap and potential abuse, I don't know, we're just gonna have to see whether we can actually take advantage or of the fact that you don't take falling damage. So it might be crazy depending on what the kind of terrain we have in specific fights, but it does have potential in my opinion. So you leap down onto a foe and you knock them prone for 2 turns. You don't take falling damage, so that means you can jump from very high up above. And to cast this ability, you must actually be on high ground, at least 1.5 meters above your target. So this is generally a really good path for this subclass, in my opinion at least. And then next, there's the Elk Heart. Again, elks tend to stampede, so you get primal stampede, and elks tend to run faster, and therefore it would give you a movement speed increase of 4.5 meters. So the primal stampede is almost like the Minotaur ability, is what I've seen. You basically plow through your enemies, charging through and knocking down enemies. The Tiger Heart, again, you're attuned to a tiger, and you can use Tiger's Bloodlust, and you can jump a longer distance basically. So the tiger generally pounces on their enemies, so I guess the longer jump distance would emulate a pounce type thing. I'm not particularly fond of this ability. It's basically a cleave ability that also applies a bleed. I think it's a bit underrated compared to some of the other abilities, especially the Berserker abilities that Berserker barbs get. Like, you know, performing an extra attack for a bonus action is extremely strong, and this doesn't necessarily seem too strong in my opinion. And then finally, the Wolf Heart. It gives you access to an ability called Inciting Howl, and then your allies also have advantage on their melee attacks when they're at least within 2 meters of you. So it almost acts like a buff machine, if you like, for all your other melee characters. I guess it would be good to spec into this if you're mostly melee focused in your party. It would make the synergy stronger. So the Inciting Howl basically gives all your allies within earshot an additional 3 meters movement during their turn. Nothing amazing, but nothing to sneer at either. So that's what barbarians get at level 3. Obviously we've covered the Berserker and Wild Heart, and I'm just gonna hop into Tasha's Cauldron of Everything book to see what the Wild Magic Barbarian might get. Again, this is sort of speculation. We don't know exactly how they're gonna implement it, but I guess we can get a pretty good idea by looking at Tasha's. So we're in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything book, which is where the path of wild magic is covered. So again, you choose your subclass at level 3, and let's see what the book has to say. So as an action, you can open your awareness to the presence of concentrated magic. Until the end of your next turn, you know the location of any spell or magic item within 60 feet of you that isn't behind total cover. When you sense a spell, you learn which school of magic it belongs to. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So I'm not entirely sure how this is going to be implemented in the game to actually have a meaningful impact. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. So what else do they get? They get Wild Surge. The magical energy roiling inside you sometimes erupts from you. When you enter your rage, roll on the wild magic table to determine the magical effect produced. If the effect requires a saving throw, the DC equals to 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your constitution modifier. Okay, fair enough. So the Wild Surge almost sounds like the Wild Magic Sorcerer, to be honest. And let's see what can trigger. So you can trigger shadowy tendrils that lash around you. Each creature of your choice that you can see within 30 feet of you must succeed on a constitution saving throw or take 1d12 necrotic damage. You also gain 1d12 temporary hit points, so that's pretty cool. They take damage and you get hit points back. That's really good. So next one, you teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. Until your rage ends, you can use this effect again on each of your turn as a bonus action. Wow. Okay, that's huge. So that you instantly become a beast that chases down your opponent. This is really good against squishy targets like casters who would misty step away, etc. And you can literally just keep chasing them to no end. This is insane. So number 3, an intangible spirit which looks like a flump or a pixie, your choice. Okay, so flump or a pixie, appears within 5 feet of one creature of your choice that you can see within 30 feet of you. At the end of the current turn, the spirit explodes. Okay, so it's basically a bomb. And each creature within 5 feet of it must succeed a dexterity saving throw or take 1d6 force damage. Until your rage ends, you can use this effect again, summoning another spirit. Okay, so you can basically throw kamikaze flumps or pixies at them. That's interesting. Magic, next one. Magic infuses one weapon of your choice that you're holding. Until your rage ends, the weapon's damage type changes to force, and it gains the light and thrown properties with a normal range of 20 feet and a long range of 60 feet. If the weapon leaves your hand, the weapon reappears in your hand at the end of the current turn. So you basically get an infinite thrown weapon. That's pretty cool. Whenever a creature, so the next one, whenever a creature hits you with an attack roll before your range ends, the creature takes 1d6 force damage as magic lashes out in retribution. Okay, it's interesting. And then number 6, until your rage ends, you're surrounded by multicolored protective lights. You gain a +1 bonus to AC, and while within 10 feet of you, your allies gain the same bonus. So basically, you're like an aura bot until your rage ends, giving 1 AC to yourself and everyone else. That's handy. Flowers and vines temporarily grow around you. That's number 7. Until your range ends, the ground within 15 feet of you is difficult terrain for your enemies. Okay, I mean seems one of the worst ones, to be honest, you can get. There's some of the other ones, especially the teleport one, just seems overpowered to me. Also the shadowy tendrils number 1 that do 1d12 necrotic damage and also give you temporary hit points. That seems a bit crazy as well. And then the last one, a bolt of light shoots from your chest. Another creature of your choice that you can see within 30 feet of you must succeed a constitution saving throw or take 1d6 radiant damage and be blinded until the start of your next turn. Wow. Until your rage ends, you can use this effect again on each of your turns as a bonus action. Wow, okay, so they basically get 8 random wild magic abilities. All of them seem pretty cool apart from the flowers and vines one. I wasn't sure about wild magic bar, but I am honestly sold just at level 3. I think that it's definitely got potential. So if we go back to the player's handbook for a minute, and let's have a look at what actually the Barbarian class as you level up gains, irrespective of subclasses for a minute. So obviously we've covered 3rd level, which you get a primal path. We've covered all level 3 primal paths and abilities up to now in this video. At 4th level Barbarian, you get an ability score improvement, so you can get +2 to any attribute or split them as you like anyway. The 5th level Barb gains extra attack and fast movement. Now fast movement increases your speed by 10 feet while you aren't wearing heavy armor. At level 6, again you get a path feature I'm going to go through, once again as before, I'm going to go through each individual path and just spell out what we get at level 6. But I just want to cover what the Barbarian as a class gets up to level 12 for a minute. At level 7 you get Feral Instinct, which basically says this. So by level 7 your instincts are so honed that you have advantage on initiative rolls. Additionally, if you're surprised at the beginning of combat and aren't incapacitated, you can act normally on your first turn, but only if you enter your rage before doing anything else on that turn. So basically you rage and then you're no longer surprised, is the gist of it. At level 8, similar to level 4, you get another ability score improvement, which is and it gives you proficiency of +3. At 9th level you get Brutal Critical. So beginning at 9th level you can roll 1 additional weapon damage die when determining the extra damage for a critical hit with a melee attack. This increases to 2 additional dice at level 3, at level 13, and 3 additional dice at level 17, which we don't have in the game, so isn't applicable to us. And then again at level 12 you get another ability score improvement. So that's covering the Barbarian as a class and what they get up to level 12. Let's quickly go through what the different primal paths get as extra abilities beyond level 3, between level 3 and level 12. So if we go back to our Frenzy Barb, let's assume our Frenzy Barb is now level 6. He will get Mindless Rage. So at level 6 you can't be charmed or frightened while raging. If you are charmed or frightened when you enter your rage, this effect is suspended for the duration of the rage, which I guess implies that once your rage ends, then you would either be charmed or frightened. I guess that's what it implies. And then at level 10 you get Intimidating Presence. So you can use your action to frighten someone with your menacing presence. When you do so, choose one creature that you can see within 30 feet of you. If the creature can see or hear you, it must succeed on a Wisdom saving throw or be frightened until the end of your next turn. On subsequent turns, you can use your action to extend the duration of this effect on the frightened creature until the end of your next turn. This effect ends if the creature ends its turn out of line of sight or is more than 60 feet away from you. Interesting. And then they get the next ability at level 14, so I won't cover that. And then the Wild Heart Barbarians get a bunch of extra abilities at level 6 as well. I'm not sure how they're going to be implemented, but let's give an example. So if you were a Bear Heart, your carrying capacity is doubled and you have advantage on strength checks made to push, pull, lift or break objects. If you were an Eagle Heart, you can see up to 1 mile away with no difficulty, able to discern even fine details as though looking at something no more than 100 feet away from you. Additionally, dim light doesn't impose disadvantage on your perception checks, so I'm not sure exactly how that's going to be implemented and whether it's going to be implemented in full in the game, but that's what the player's handbook describes. And then lastly, if you were a Wolf Heart, you gain the hunting sensibilities of a wolf. You can track other creatures while traveling at a fast pace. You can move stealthily while traveling at a normal pace. Okay, again, I'm not exactly sure how that will be implemented in the game and what they will do in terms of homebrewing, etc. Because, again, it is homebrewed. This subclass is homebrewed by Larian. They've taken bits and pieces from Path of the Totem Warrior, but haven't really applied them to the full extent, and then they're adding a whole load of other forms or hearts, whatever you want to call them, in terms of animals anyway, to the class as well. So we'll see how that's implemented exactly. And then at level 10, you can cast Commune with Nature as a ritual. Obviously Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't have rituals, so I guess it's going to be a once per long rest type thing. When you do so, a spiritual version of one of the animals you choose for the totem spirit or the aspect of the beast appears to you to convey the information you seek. So basically I guess it means whatever animal you're tuned to, whether you're a bear heart, an eagle heart, a wolf heart, etc., etc., that specific animal would appear in front of you and give you some kind of extra information. Kind of seems a bit underwhelming. Not sure what they're going to do with it in the game. We'll just have to wait and see. So hopping back into Tasha's, basically at level 6, the Wild Magic Barb gets the following ability called Bolstering Magic. You can harness your wild magic to bolster yourself or your companion. As an action, you can touch one creature, which can be yourself. Okay, that's useful to know. And confer one of the following benefits of your choice to that creature. So benefit number 1. For 10 minutes, the creature can roll a d3 whenever making an attack roll or an ability check and add the number roll to the d20 roll. Okay, so it's kind of like a mini inspiration from a bard, is what I can see. And then the second ability is roll a d3, so the creature regains one expended spell slot, the level of which equals the number rolled or lower. Once a creature receives this benefit, that creature can't receive it again until after a long rest. It's actually really handy. So they can recharge spell slots up to level 3 spell slot, one level 3 spell slot basically per long rest if you're lucky. Okay, and then at level 10 they get Unstable Backlash. So when you're imperiled during your rage, the magic within you can lash out. Immediately after you take damage or fail a saving throw while raging, you can use your reaction roll on the wild magic table and immediately produce the effect rolled. This effect replaces your current wild magic effect, so it's a reaction that triggers one of the 8 wild magic effects but replaces your current one. So if you've actually rolled one of the abilities you wanted, it may not make sense to actually want to re-roll again. It's kind of situational, definitely got its usage. On the other hand, you can flip it on its head and say, okay, if I've rolled a bad one, then I can have a chance at re-rolling again into potentially a better one for my specific situation. Okay, that's really interesting. So I'm actually pretty sold on the Wild Magic Barbarian, to be honest. It's definitely going to be one of the subclasses I'm going to be playing. Probably not early on, but I'm definitely going to be playing it in one of my initial playthroughs anyway. That's it for the Barbarian class. I hope you actually found this breakdown useful and it will assist you in your preparation for the official launch of the Baldur's Gate 3 game. Thank you for watching. If you like this type of content, please consider giving us a like, comment and subscribing. It massively helps out the channel and myself. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.